Hey guys, and welcome to episode 66 of How I Made My First $1 Million. Today, we are looking at the numbers from March 1st, 2026, so let's dive in. We start as usual with the balance sheet. Assets coming in at $170K. That is nice, up about $20,000 from last month. Good solid chunk, as expected. I'll explain why in a moment. Liabilities, chipping away at those, $100 lower, 16.6K. Net worth, $154,000. That's up, 20, almost $21,000 from last month. So what happened? Okay, cash balance is up about 30 grand. Lovely. Big payday. And I kept it in cash. That's also very interesting. Gold and silver up a little bit. 4,000, a little more than 10%-ish. Probably even more than 10%. Anyways. I did not buy any of those metals. Bitcoin down a lot from the previous month. I did not buy any Bitcoin either. So Bitcoin super on sale now. I'm gonna have to buy a lot as soon as possible. And Kiva, I started pulling funds out. So pulled out about $1,000. Like I've mentioned before, I'm done lending. I hit 25,000 lent lifetime, and now I'm pulling all those funds out and I'll repurpose them for something else. So kind of a lot of changes actually, but on balance up about 20 grand. Not too shabby. All right, let's look at the pie chart. So Bitcoin 78,000 and change, 46% overall. A lot lower as a percentage than I want. So again, it's on sale, measured in fiat, really good time to buy. Plus I want that percentage to be higher. Plus I want to use some of my February bonus that I just got to buy Bitcoin for my Roth IRA. So a lot of reasons to buy Bitcoin. That's what's going to happen very soon. Gold and silver, 30%. A solid chunk. I don't really want it to be higher than that, but as I start buying more Bitcoin, that the percentage of gold and silver will naturally decrease. Kiva lending 5%. We're taking this to zero. So just every month, I'm just going to pull out whatever loans have been repaid back. So I don't know how long it'll take to pull all this out. I'm guessing like a year. So we'll see. And cash 32,000, 19%. So I do want to keep a meaningful cash balance, and I think in the last video I mentioned around 10 grand, but upon further reflection and upon consulting ChatGPT, I think something closer to 30 grand is what I want to try, which seems overwhelmingly large to me, and I'm very uncomfortable sitting on that much cash, and it feels like a waste. But I want to hold it as an experiment to see if psychologically it allows me to take greater risks elsewhere in life, if that makes sense. Be more courageous in creating value rather than reallocating it from one asset to another. Hopefully that makes sense. But basically what I'm thinking is the opportunity for me to increase my wealth or success, however you want to think about it, comes more from my production than it does from my allocation, on this kind of a pie chart. So hopefully that makes sense. And the other chart here, let's see, coming in at 154K. Okay, haven't quite reclaimed the high from October, 156, but we're extremely close. I mean, we should take that out next month unless assets crash. So yeah, chipping away. Wonderful. All right, the income statement. Look at that. Yeah, so 40K in 1 month. That is quite hefty. Expenses almost 9,000, so pretty elevated. But net income pretty high, around 31,000. Okay, so what about these revenues? Wages and salary. So I'm not sure what the normal monthly income is going to be. I guess I'll find out next month in March, because this includes a bonus, which was 30K before taxes and then roughly 21K after. So 21. So the remaining 18, even that, I'm not going to be getting 18 grand a month. It's not going to be that high. Some of that is back pay from a new salary increase effective retroactively to January 1st, which I did not get. I did not get in the month of January. So some of that should have appeared in January. So again, I don't have all those numbers right now, but basically what happened, I'll just put it right here. So I was making 125K. Then I got an inflation raise to 132K, and then I negotiated a pay increase to 225K. So this is my new salary retroactive to January 1st. And I also happen to get a bonus of 30K before taxes, roughly 21K after taxes. So that's where we're at going forward. And then, yeah, got almost $1,000 in loan repayments from Kiva. Expenses, yeah, we'll replace it. We're going to clear all that stuff. Did anything interesting happen here? Spent a lot on entertainment compared to zero. Spent a lot on travel compared to actually getting refunded. Probably because I spent a lot in the months before and then I was reimbursed by my partner. Yeah, not that interesting. Okay, great. But actually what's interesting is even in an elevated month, this is around 9,000, and that's how I came up with that 30,000 number. I wanted to have 3 months of expenses sitting in my checking account, and I know at most it hovers around 9,000, and so that's 27,000, and then I sort of rounded it to 30 as a stronger version of that experiment. So that's where I came up with those numbers. All right, cash flows. Nice, positive, strong operating cash flow, plus 30K. That's huge. Remember, when that number is positive, we're living within our means. And that's overwhelmingly positive. Obviously, that is not going to be sustainable. Did not do any investing. So despite this huge cash influx, have not done any investing. I definitely will in March. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to sit on that cash pile and just see how it feels. And then with financing, you'll notice it went negative. I mean, it was basically negative every month, and then all of a sudden it's positive. So instead of loaning actively, I'm receiving those loans that have been repaid, and I'm pulling it out. So yeah, bit of a turnaround there, but I'm excited for it. Is anything interesting here? Nope, just showing this. Nope. Financing. Didn't do any donations. That's maybe important. Yeah, I talked to ChatGPT again about my whole financial situation, and I basically said I want to tithe. I want to give away 10% of my income from now on, and I kind of want to do it retroactively from 2025 because I only donated a little bit on Kiva. It wasn't 10%. And ChatGPT said, that's noble, but it's really foolish. And if you're in the income building phase of your life, you shouldn't be donating like you're in the end phase of your life, like phase 3, like you're in phase 1. So that was a surprise. I don't know. I'm tempted to say a tough pill to swallow. I mean, it wasn't that hard, but basically ChatGPT said, keep your money, stop donating it. And if you donate less now, you can donate way more later. So that is what I'm going to try doing. Finally, the updates. Yeah, I actually don't feel like reading any of these. So if you want, you can pause the video and read them, with the exception, of course, of the last section here. How am I thinking? How am I feeling? And what am I doing? Well, I'm thinking that power is a skill, kind of like strength, speed, flexibility, agility. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. But I never really thought of power as a skill. It just seems kind of foolish, but it's one thing to be strong. Like, 2 people can lift 300 pounds, let's say. But if one person takes 5 seconds to lift that weight and the other person does it in half a second, that second person who does it faster is 10 times as powerful. So that's really important. So I've been thinking about developing power as a skill. And one of the things I scrolled past is that I started powerlifting, just to practice that. And of course, it's not just lifting, it's everything you do in life, but it's being able to do the same amount of work in a shorter period of time. So it's one thing to be able to do a lot of work and to be strong. That's amazing. That's impressive. That's wonderful. but to do it in a short amount of time makes you more powerful. So I've been thinking about that, and I'm powerlifting because it's kind of fun, but it's also a metaphor. Relatedly, because everything is related, I've been thinking how much rest is needed between tasks. So when I started powerlifting, all the advice I got was that you should rest a lot longer between sets. And I always thought that was like a sign of weakness or something, like resting too much. And I noticed that I would do the same thing in my calendar. I would schedule tasks back to back to back, that like idle time was somehow weakness or waste. And so I'm rethinking this because I have found that by forcing myself to rest in between exercises at the gym or in between trips to the gym. So if I work out Tuesday, I don't necessarily go Wednesday. Sometimes I wait and go Thursday, take a day off. And again, I thought that those days off were like a sign of weakness and you're falling behind relative to somebody who works out 7 days a week. But I'm rethinking that. So how much rest is needed between tasks, between days, between whatever? What is the minimum effective dose? Sometimes rest is the best investment. Also, conscious use of screens during meals and during bathroom time. You can squander a lot of energy focusing on a screen that you don't really care about. And maybe that's not restful when those periods of time could be restful. So I'm thinking about that. And finally, something I alluded to earlier, or maybe even explicitly said, my biggest lever financially is creating irreplaceable output. Irreplaceable output, things that only I can do. So that's scalable, because you can use the internet. There's no competition. When you're truly yourself, no one can compete with you. And it's, of course, a flywheel. So once you get it turning, it's easier to turn it faster. So that's what I'm thinking about. And for example, if that means I sit with a abnormally large cash cushion, you know, if the opportunity cost is, okay, I buy fewer, you know, investments, whatever, gold, silver, Bitcoin, whatever it is. However, that allows me to create way more in terms of irreplaceable output, then that's a good decision. So right now I'm basically running an experiment with that. We'll let it go a few months and see what happens. So that's what I've got. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next month.